What's up? Welcome back to POV Pottery. Um, Thanks everybody for watching and for subscribing and being a part of this. Let me know if there's any videos that or any demos that you would like to see on video. And I'm just gonna keep on trucking, keep on trying to put out interesting stuff for you. We're still kind of covering our basics right now. This is the bowl that I threw with you guys earlier. I think it was this week. And it's set up and it's leather hard and it's time to trim. Now if I feel this bowl, I can feel it's super bottom heavy right now. I've got a lot of weight down here at the bottom. I'm looking at my curve on the inside and I'm feeling how thick the clay is on the floor of the bowl. And the first thing I got to do is make sure it's ready to trim. And if it's ready, you should be able to make a fingernail mark but not really push down and make a thumb dent or finger dent in the clay. Think Parmesan cheese. You know, it's hard, but you can make a little dent in it, okay? Then if your clay is like that and it hasn't changed color, you're good. Now if it's changed color, if it's gotten all white, then it might be bone dry, where there's zero moisture in it, and that's not ideal, but you can trim it. Okay. So let's get this thing centered. This video is going to be about centering the clay once it's centering the bowl once it's thrown. And I'm gonna need to grab some clay here. All right. So, step one, you're gonna want to get some kind of target, and you can do that by spinning the wheel, drawing a target on your bat with a pencil, and using that to help eyeball. If you don't have a pencil, you can use a sponge, a wet sponge, just to make a circle. Okay. And that can help you center your piece, and you can put your anchors down. But what I do is I tap center. And tap centering is like this. Wheels going, and you tap it on center. Okay. To learn this, you want to have your right hand just very, very lightly pressing against the clay. It's just gliding. If you're pushing too hard, your bowl will move, and it'll get caught up on your right hand. This is just to catch the bowl. Your left hand, your right hand is going to be doing the tapping at 3 o'clock. And the first taps are kind of hard, and the next taps are lighter. A good thing to practice this with is like a tuna can or something that you don't really care about. And I just suggest, get a piece off center and practice tapping it. And you'll kind of get a feel for it, There we go. Okay, so that's about 90% on center, 99% on center. Then the next thing to do is to get some clay and use it as an anchor. Now your clay should be nice and wet, and I'm going to use 4 pieces, and some people will do 3, some people will do 4, some people do a whole ring around, and I it doesn't really matter. 3 is probably the fewest you should use. I wouldn't use 2, but I usually use 4 when I'm trimming this way. Now there's another way to trim, which I like even better than I'm showing you now. It's called trimming off the hump, and I will demonstrate that in another video. But the advantage of trimming off the hump is you don't have to deal with these little, you don't have to center it, and you don't have to put on these little anchors of clay. One more thing. When you're putting your anchors down, make sure you hold your pot or your bowl so that when you squish the clay down, it doesn't accidentally move or off center your piece. Okay, so I'm gonna use this trimming tool for today. It's not usually the trimming tool that I would use, but I could even talk a whole long video just about trimming tools. And all the different brands and different kinds and kinds that you can make. But for now, I'm just going to use your standard toolkit trimming tool. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off this excess clay so I get a nice vertical wall. And hold your fingers, and you want to have opposing pressure. So I'm pushing this way, but I'm also opposing that, so I'm very stable. And I'm also holding the tool really close to the cutting edge. I'm not holding it out here where I have a little bit less control. I'm going to hold up here, and my elbows are braced. Okay, so I'm going to just gently press in very slowly. And if your clay is at the right consistency, you should have these ribbons of clay coming off. Okay, so I just like to trim off some of that excess clay, and then what I like to do is make sure I'm centered. Now here's my method of doing it. I hold the needle tool touching at 3 o'clock, pointing at 12 o'clock, and pressing very close to the edge, and I draw a circle. Okay, and then I look at the distance between the circle and the edge, and I gauge my centeredness. It's pretty centered, so I'm gonna make this a little off-centered, and I'm gonna demonstrate if it's off-center. Erase this circle just in case this happens to you, and I'm gonna do a different circle here. Okay, so here you can see that this distance here is slightly less than this distance here. So I'm going to push towards 12 o'clock, towards the skinnier distance. I'm just going to nudge it a tiny bit. Okay, and that's what you would do as you are centering. If you draw your circle and you find that you are off center, move your pot towards the skinnier end. So there we go, I'm back on center. And now I'm gonna start trimming this foot. I don't have a lot of clay to trim off this way, but definitely on the down. So here we go. I'm gonna first start trimming off some of this belly fat. I know I've got a lot of extra belly fat. I think I'll use this round end. I know I have a lot of belly fat because I felt it when I was evaluating my wall after I picked this pot up. I could feel there was a lot of excess clay right here. So see how my thumb is providing that opposing pressure. You always want to have a brace. You don't just want to be pushing in. Sorry if I belabor that point. Okay. I'm going to bevel this foot. A good foot should relate to your rim in some way, either in thickness or in shape or both. So since this rim has a little gentle flare out, I'm going to have this gently flare out. So it's not quite vertical, it kind of flares out a bit. And I could go in one of many ways. I could have this vertical, or I could have this rounded. This is such a round bowl. I think it would look fine if I had a rounded foot. If I did something like this. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. Maybe a little too cutesy for me. Go straight up and down. Right here at the base of the foot, where the foot and the belly connect, I always like to do this little notch. And that's going to be a glaze catch. That's going to slow the glaze down. I especially recommend that for if you're learning a studio's glazes. Definitely do that, because some glazes are really runny, and just having a little notch can save your pot from sticking to the kiln shelf. Trust me, nobody wants that. Alright, here we go. Oh, let me illustrate another point here. If you hold your tool like this, with the needle tool pointing towards maybe like 10 o'clock, look what happens. You get a line that has a lot of crumbs and fringes, and it's difficult to read. Now look at the difference when I hold it like this, with the needle tool pointing towards 12 o'clock. Look at the line quality. It's totally different. This has got all this junk. This is nice and clean. So that illustrates the point that the angle at which you hold your tool will determine the quality of the cut. If I hold it this way, it's going to hit the clay is hitting the side, versus if I hold it this way, it's just hitting the tip. Okay, so that's a principle of the angle of the tool will determine the quality of the cut is a principle of trimming. And as you are using your trimming tool, you'll notice that it starts to get dull, and basically you got to change your angle to find out a better cutting angle. Now the first step, there's two positions that I like to use, this position and then this position. So first position is horizontal between 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. And I'm going to twist the tool on a 45-degree axis, and it's also going to be lifted at about a 45-degree angle. I'm holding onto the corner, and both of my elbows are down. And check that out. I'm just make those little grooves, okay? And hold. Get rid of clean off the scrap. And then I hold it in second position, and I use the whole flat side of the tool. And I take all of those mountains and I bring them down to the valley, okay? This way I'm taking very small controlled bites. That's what you want. You want to take very slow, small controlled bites so that you don't accidentally go through. And I can stop and I can press. It's getting a little wet down here, but it's okay. And I'm just going to repeat. This is trimming. Notice the wheel speed. Wheel speed's going pretty fast. Sometimes people trim too slowly. I want this to line up with this. Okay? I want the outside of the foot ring to line up with the inside of the foot ring. So it just looks like the foot ring was just added on. The reason why we have the foot ring is because it makes our pots physically lighter, makes our pots visually lighter. It reduces the surface area that is touching the table, reducing the likelihood of scratching your table or countertop. It gives you a place to hold the piece when you glaze, and it's kind of like a nice visual. It's like a period at the end of a sentence, really. It's like a nice way to finish your piece. Also frames your signature, which is nice. Every potter I know, when they pick up a pot, they turn it upside down and look at the foot. I think a lot of potters are looking to see how the trimming job was done and if the foot matches the rim, if it matches, if it is appropriate to the pot. One time I was at San Jose State and I was trimming and I made all these pots that I was really happy with, and they were like these faceted tea bowls, and I brought them to my professor, Professor Stan Welsh, and I showed it to him, and I was like pretty stoked, and he held it up and he looked at it, and it took him like 2 seconds. He looked, or less than that, he turns it over, looks at the foot, and he goes, "Too stiff." And as soon as he said it, I knew he was right. I was like, dang it. Because those pots, they were all loose, but then the foot was very stiff and formal, and it didn't fit. And he was absolutely right. And so I have really since taken that to heart, and I think about that. All right, so that looks like it's lining up pretty good. I put a bunch of lines in there. If you don't want lines, if you want a nice smooth bowl, you can take one of these bigger trimming tools. I think this one is a Kemper. My favorite trimming tools are probably Dolan trimming tools, and also there's some really expensive ones called Bison tools, and Zyme has some really expensive tungsten carbide tools. Those are great, but they're brittle. The nice thing is you don't have to sharpen them though, which is excellent. All right. Now to finish this up, put a little water down. I always like to finish it with a rib. I once heard that there's two types of potters. There's the potters that don't mind the fingerprints, and the potters that do. I don't know if I totally agree with that, but I understand, and I understand the sentiment. Sometimes I'm really loose, and I have lots of fingerprints and finger marks. And sometimes I throw pots that are really tight, more like this one. It's visually tight. It's on center. There's no wobble in it. And I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way, or there's a right aesthetic or a wrong aesthetic. It's just two different aesthetics. I think it's better if you can throw both ways, like if you have that range to throw really tight or throw really loose. You know what I mean? So the way I like to sign a piece is with a pencil. I almost always date a pot too, so that it is, so I know when I made it. Really. Okay, lift these guys off. Alright, that balance is much, much better. Much, much better. One way to tell is you put it upside down and you go like that. It's still a little bottom heavy. I think I'll leave it for now. At least for this video, but hey, thanks for watching. Keep watching. I'll put up some new videos. I think the next video I'll do is mugs. If you have any requests, let me know in the comment section below. And thanks for watching. Peace.